welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of the Hold for Hold Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Jaime, last name redacted, and today we will be discussing, recapping, and reviewing AEW's All Out pay-per-view. Just at the start, I want to thank you guys for listening to this podcast, and make sure you subscribe, follow on everything you can possibly find us on. And we hope to continue making great content for you. Without further ado, let's jump right into the main card, AEW's All Out pay-per-view. They started off things a little bit weird with the Kingston Miro matchup. I really expected this to be a little further down the card, not necessarily as an opener, but it didn't disappoint. Two big men slapping meat. It's always going to be a good start to any show, if you ask me, especially with how over Eddie Kingston really is. Let's get into the meat of this match. A little bit down the line, Eddie Kingston looks for a big splash off the apron to Miro on the floor, but Miro catches him for that delayed power slam that he loves to use. And Kingston's in trouble from here. Honestly, it kind of scared me the way he caught him, but it was okay. Gets him back into the ring, puts Kingston in the game over. And to my surprise, I believe this is the first time anyone's broken the game over, as Eddie Kingston was able to reach the bottom rope. A little bit down the line, Miro distracts the referee, hits that back kick low blow, and hits a super kick for the win. It keeps both men looking strong, but it wasn't the best finish for an opening pay-per-view match. I hope to see a rematch with these two on Dynamite or Rampage, hopefully with a stipulation like a street fight. I think these two could really have a lot of fun with that. Next up, we had Kingston's best friend Mox taking on Kojima in a exhibition match that, wow, was stiff. Moxley started off things pretty hot. He looked pretty mad the whole matchup, and I love his character work nowadays. This just nonchalant, almost deranged Moxley is just fantastic. And then when he's in there with great stiff workers like Kojima, it just really pairs up perfectly. A lot of disrespect at the beginning, Moxley just throwing middle fingers left and right. They're on the top rope. Kojima starts biting Moxley's forehead and a big superplex that looked great. Some more stiff punches and a DDT on the apron to Moxley, and Moxley's elbow starts to bleed here. And commentary made a great point of bringing up Moxley's elbow infection. It really brought some seriousness to the situation and made Moxley look more in trouble than he probably was. Moxley able to make a little bit of a comeback. He puts on a sleeper and then transitions it immediately into an X-Plex and then an armbar, which was really nice. But Kojima able to break that armbar, and Moxley goes for a paradigm shift, but can't quite hit it. So Kojima able to reverse a paradigm shift into a brainbuster. The crowd goes crazy. He's going to go for that cozy lariat, but instead gets hit with that standing switch German suplex. But then a big lariat, Koji cutter after a left hand lariat, and then both men are down. I mean, it was a fast paced match. Both men laying it all out there, very stiff. Moxley able to get off the ropes lariat, which looked real snug, and then into the bulldog choke. Eventually paradigm shift after reversing another lariat from Kojima, and it's over. My mistake, 2 paradigm shifts after reversing the lariat. Then it's over. And just when you think they're packing it up, big surprise, Minoru Suzuki is here, and such a great pop for the legend. JR mentions having breakfast with him in Tokyo and he was afraid to chew, and I believe that. Minoru gets in the ring, stare down with Moxley just smiling the whole time. These two start exchanging forearms, and eventually Minoru locks in that nice sleeper, transitions them into a gotch style pile driver, and the crowd loved it. I thought this was a great exhibition match, and that post match beatdown from Suzuki was just perfect. And it's a good story that Kingston couldn't come out to help him. I think that kind of plays into maybe why they did that as the opening match. But either way, just good all around fun that I'm excited to see Minoru Suzuki on Dynamite, on Rampage, wherever he's going to show up next. Um, and next up, we had Statlander versus Britt Baker for the AEW Women's Championship, and just a great reception for Britt Baker. I think she's possibly the most over star they have right now. A lot of disrespect from Britt, much like Mox did to start this match, but more chain wrestling, going hold for hold, some would say. Each trying to get their finish off early. Britt Baker goes for that DMD, but couldn't finish it as Statlander takes her finger and pokes her eye with it. Just a great show of strength from Statlander, and it was kind of plays into this match even more as the match continues. Britt takes control early and was able to hit a Hangman's Whiplash neck breaker from the top rope, and it looked nasty. It was quick snap on that neck breaker. And Britt's just selling it. She's milking the moment. She's all in control and super confident. But Statlander able to make a comeback. She has a running knee into the corner and avoids a stomp. And then she powers up Britt for this beautiful fisherman's buster and a nice roll through into a black side, but then a nasty DDT to Statlander. I mean, this match was again fast to call and it was fun to watch. A little bit down the line, there's a nasty flatliner into the middle rope spot that Britt delivers to Statlander that I couldn't believe. And up on the top rope, Kris deadlifts Britt into a superplex, and it looked pretty rough for both women. Kris is about to go for a 450, and she's getting so much encouragement from Orange Cassidy. The commentary is really milking that this is the most they've seen Orange Cassidy talk and engage. And it definitely was a good moment. The crowd was really feeding into it. But Kris unfortunately misses the 450. Britt goes for the lockjaw, but she was able to kind of maneuver. I don't even understand how this happened, but Kris was able to maneuver her way to picking up Britt into that electric chair position and doing a reverse electric chair drop. So dropping it right on her face. And it was a great sequence. The crowd was really hot for this. Kris goes for that moonsault she does off the apron, that little charge. I love that spot, but she misses it and just eats the mat. It was hard to watch. Britt stomps her on the floor, and Orange Cassidy trying to motivate Kris Statlander to break the count, and it works. And she comes in there immediately going in for the spider crab, almost gets it locked in, but Britt Baker kicking her way out. Eventually, we get to see the Britsburg sunrise, a little bit of foreshadowing for down the line, into a stomp and a lockjaw, and it's over. Just a great match. These two women, I mean, that chemistry was just great. Even those moments where it was a little scary, like that deadlift superplex, I mean, they made everything work. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Great match. Hard to follow that, and so they did follow it with a Andrade interview. He's told that Pac is also having travel issues, and it pretty much seems like Chavo was responsible for it. Chavo giving some shady eyes the entire time, and Andrade questioning him if he really is a part of this. And Chavo denies it, says that they could have had travel if they were with him. And Andrade clearly making it clear that he did not want that to happen, and he cannot wait to see the little Pac on Friday. It's going to be good. That match is going to be great. Just a little bit disappointed we didn't get to see it at all out, but on Rampage they're going to give it time, and I am very excited to see a Pac Andrade match. Coming up next was the Lucha Bros fighting for the AEW World Tag Team Championships from the Young Bucks. This match, I mean, I guess I kind of want to talk about, and they have a cage that has an apron, and it makes all the difference. It allows them so much more freedom than the normal cage match from, WWE and other promotions where the cage is kind of right up against those ropes. So I never got to talk about that before, but I really like the design of this cage. And I think with this set of competitors, it's really highlighted best, not necessarily through Cody Rhodes and Wardlow's match, because they don't have much offense or really much need for the apron. But anyways, getting back to this match, the Lucha Bros come out with a live performance with some questionable looking druids, but a pretty good rap to like hype up the crowd, get them out there. Honestly, I think they had the best live performance out of anyone. And just best gear of the night. This Aztec inspired gear for the Lucha Bros was great. I even wrote down that it's convincing me that they're going to win because they looked like they were soaking in that moment. But yeah, they deserve all the love they got that night. And of course, the Young Bucks come out with Nick Jackson's extremely weird facial hair that is just getting more absurd by the week. And I love to see it. Don Callis is on commentary as usual, and man, him and Tony Schiavone just great chemistry. It's legitimate heat between those two, and I cannot wait to hear Don Callis call more matches. So stare down to start and do their brawl. You know, the crowd is really feeding into the Lucha Bros. Young Bucks kind of take control in the beginning here. This is one of those matches where writing notes is almost impossible. You really have to see this for yourself. But the story of this match was the Young Bucks were trying to isolate one of the brothers at one time so they could get their advantage in early, keep going. And unfortunately, Penta got trapped between like the apron and the cage, and that looked pretty rough. And so every time they would hit offense on Phoenix, they would come back and kind of like just shove Penta against the cage even more and more. And it's really just building to a great moment. Phoenix is able to come back from just a fury of offense, and only Phoenix knows how to do these Hurricane Rana cutters. God knows what he's doing in that ring, but just amazing athleticism from Phoenix. And then a double super kick to Phoenix into the cage kind of shuts that down. And we get a Meltzer driver and a senton at the same time to both brothers, but they kick out. And that kick out was very close. And then we get a low blow party from Matt Jackson, just straight up low blows to both men. And they start ripping at the mask. And at this point, Penta's already bleeding from something. And it's just, oof. At this point, also, Tony tells Don to stop with the BS. And it's pretty jarring to hear Tony cuss. And he kind of cusses a couple more times throughout this little segment. Cutler, the stooge, throws in a bag from the outside into the cage. Great throw, by the way. And Matt Jackson opens it up, and there's some Cactus Jack Jordan 1s with thumbtacks laced on the bottom of the shoe. And of course, he puts them on. And right as he's about to hit Phoenix with the super kick with those thumbtack laced Jordans, Penta moves into the way, protecting his younger brother. Great moment. The crowd really ate that up. And Penta gets kicked right in the head with it. And then he gets hit again with the tacks and just nasty, shoving his head into the tacks, and then a haluva kick to the back of the head, right into the tacks. I mean, it's bad. And then a super kick with the tacks to Phoenix and a BT trigger to Penta, but Phoenix barely breaks the count. This is possibly the biggest crowd pop of the night. Another Phoenix comebacks and gets the shoes, nails a muscle buster into like a fisherman buster. It happens so fast, it's almost hard to explain, but great move. And he gets 2 on Matt Jackson with that. Phoenix and Nick get hit with a package pile drivers on the aprons, almost trying to one up each other with these package pile drivers, and they were stiff. Mexican destroyer from the top rope from Penta to Matt, which is probably going to get clipped the most, and honestly couldn't believe it when it happened. I know they've done it off a ladder before, but this was just the drama of that moment was great. And we get a beautiful sequence where all 4 men stand up, just start chopping and super kicking each other in a rotation. And we get kip ups. It's a great PWG type spot. And it just shows the brutality these men are going through right now. Eventually, we do get a fear factor, but the pin is broken up by Matt. Phoenix climbs up to the top of the cage, as we knew someone would, and a huge crossbody onto everyone, including Penta. And then transition straight into that assisted tiger driver they've been doing lately. And 1, 2, 3, we have new champions. This is possibly the best cage match I've ever watched. There's definitely been some great ones in WWE. I know Owen Hart, Bret Hart had that great cage match. But I think for modern wrestling, this might be one of the best cage matches, period. And just a great moment. That wind really lifted up that crowd. I mean, even me at home, I got kind of emotional seeing those two guys. They've done so much. They've really earned this moment. And Penta, bloody as all gets, hugging his daughter, I'm assuming, and just great moment. And those AEW tag team championships are truly the most prestigious titles for a tag team to have right now. And I couldn't think of anyone more deserving than them. Well, to come down from that moment, we get a highlight reel of what's happened so far on the card. Nice little highlight reel just to break up the flow of things. And next we get the Casino Battle Royale. So list of the competitors, we have Jamie Hayter, Kylan King, Layla Hirsch, Red Velvet, Anna Jay, Abaddon, Blue Sky, and Jade Cargill. Battle Royals aren't my favorite matches, just in general, Royal Rumbles type. They can be fun, they have their moments, but in total, I feel like it's just a lot of people in the ring at the same time, and it's hard for cameras to really catch everything. And I think that's going to be the main issue with this match. But I will give them credit. This match was really well booked, especially in terms of the entrance order. I think they did a great job building up to everybody coming in. Just a few of the eliminations felt rushed. But Hikaru Shida comes out first as part of the club's group, and just great pop for her. And they've mentioned on commentary that Hikaru Shida and Shakura were like trainee mentorship relationship there, and you would think they would team up, but no, immediately going for backbreakers on each other, just being stiff. And then they kind of hit some stereo backbreakers on a couple other entrants at the same time, and it's kind of a cute moment, but you could just tell these two are not there to be friendly. Abaddon comes in, Abaddon eliminates Sky Blue, and then is immediately eliminated by the Bunny, which was a little surprising. We get a Romero special from Shida, or to Shida from Shakura. So again, just animosity there. The Diamond Group out next. Anna Jay rushes to the ring, goes right after the Bunny. Great little story they're telling. Nyla Rose goes right for Shida. Shakura is out by Shida. Rose eliminates Kiera Hogan and Kylan King and Shida. So big tear there for Nyla Rose. The Heart Group out next, and Thunder Rosa is here. If you don't know, Thunder Rosa is possibly my favorite wrestler on the AEW roster, period. I just absolutely love her work. I got to see her come out for a Fyre Fest dark match here in Austin, Texas, and crowd pop huge, and she deserves every bit of this. But anyways, Thunder Rosa is here, gives a beautiful shotgun drop kick to Nyla Rose. And then we get a big pop for Rio coming out, and Jamie Hayter comes out as well. She kind of gets a pretty decent pop too. Rio gets a double 619. It's pretty chaotic by this point. A lot of people still in the ring. Rio gets eliminated shockingly by Jamie Hayter. It's really quick, and it doesn't really get caught by the cameras. The crowd by this point is rooting for Rosa. Spade Groups comes out next, take Conti right after the Bunny, and we get a big spear from Red Velvet to Hayter, which was great sell by both those women. Jade Cargill comes in next, another woman that I'm very excited to see her go further in this division. The Rebel does like the splits on the ropes and gets kicked out, and it's kind of a nasty fall. Anna Jay eliminates the Bunny and gets eliminated for her troubles. Jade Cargill with a big press slam to Layla Hirsch over the top rope onto refs and competitors. It looked pretty good. And then we get the Joker, big pop as Ruby Soho. The destination has been made clear. She is an AEW. She was ecstatic. I mean, it kind of felt like when Edge came back at the Royal Rumble, this was a big moment for her, and I'm really glad to see her in AEW. She goes right after Jade. Rosa and Soho team up. Jade eliminates Hayter while Penelope and Tay are going at it. It's kind of awkward. Penelope and Tay had a whole sequence going, and then an elimination happens like right as we're about to get the climax of Penelope and Tay's sequence. So cameras weren't really great at catching that. But then Nyla Rose eliminates Jade, and I have a feeling that's going to be pretty big sticking point there. We might see a follow up on Dynamite about that. Ty Conti eventually takes out Penelope Ford. Nyla takes out Ty, which is pretty back to back. It's kind of, I always like that spot. So now it's just Ruby, Thunder Rosa, and Nyla Rose last in the match. Rosa with a big drop kick to eliminate Nyla, which was a pretty good spot. These two, and now it's just Soho and Rosa, and these two are just over as all can be. The crowd is fully into this now, and it's always great when we get a little bit of a one-on-one match at the end of a big battle royal like this. Rosa starts cussing her out in Spanish as she chops her, and I love it. Both women get on the apron, and we get some great teases like they're gonna go off or they're gonna hit their finish. Then Rosa teases like a Death Valley driver on the apron, which I would love to have saw. But in the end, Ruby Soho hits that enziguri for the win. It's a feel-good match, but it did have a couple odd moments. It was really saved by that storytelling and the great finish. I can't put into words how great it was to see Ruby Soho in AEW. Next up, we have the Grudge match, the possibly Jericho's last match ever, which I will say I believed it was going to be his last match. You can call me a mark, you can say I got worked, but I really did think it was a great time to step down for Jericho. But nonetheless, this match was great. We get MJF teases a Y2J Tron that ends the countdown with Jericho's last match. It was a good little teaser there. MJF has some King gear that kind of looks a little off, but it's okay. Big Church of Joshi sign up front. Great to see that. We get a live Fozzy entrance for Jericho. I saw a lot of people complaining that the entrance like was out of sync. And I mean, it's all right. The song isn't that great to cheer on, I feel like. So I just never think it's going to work out that well. But it wasn't anything noticeably bad, if you ask me. Start of this match, NJF runs towards Kris's jacket and rubs it all over his butt, and then goes next to the audience, rips up a sign. I mean, just some real hatred radiating off of these two. It's really great to watch. Kind of felt like especially at the beginning, it felt like a Tommy Dreamer Raven match. Especially they go to the outside, they kind of do their brawling. It's kind of a little bit of an ECW style environment where they're interacting with the crowd, coming back to each other, and it still feels palpable how much these two don't like each other. Oh, and at one point, Jericho takes one of these like, where you're in line at the airport and this thing that separates you from the other person. Pretty heavy. I don't know what they're called. I call it a line holder. He throws it at MJF's head, and it looks just rough, which I don't know how that wasn't a disqualification right off the back, but it's all right. We get a triangle drop kick from Jericho to MJF, takes MJF to the outside again. MJF comes back in, targeting that left arm of Jericho. And so we get a little bit of working holes, just really MJF milking the crowd out of this. We get a classic Jericho comeback and a butterfly backbreaker. Love that move. Get a foot stomp to the arm and a judo throw from MJF to Jericho, and that judo throw looked great. And here's where the match kind of really picked up. We get a heat seeker onto the apron from MJF to Jericho, and Jericho's head looked like it nailed the apron flush. And Jericho's out on the ground. Count begins. He beats the count at 9. MJF goes for an acai moonsault to the outside, and Jericho avoids it, and then just pop-up powerbomb onto the apron to MJF. Great moment there. Back in the ring, we get some close fists just back and forth. Again, really selling just how much these two hate each other. Jericho goes for a flying whatever, and MJF just nails him with a code breaker. Kris looks to get the walls in, but he can't quite get it, but does nail a long ways. Lion Salt takes off his sleeve. He is fired up. Goes to the top rope for some punches, looking for that patented Hurricane Rana, but MJF nails a power bomb. But he's hurt too. He does this really great selling his hip bone coming down from that power bomb, and he just can't get the cover in time. We get a middle rope code breaker from Kris, and that's when Wardlow comes out, trying to distract Chris Jericho, but Jake Hager comes out and runs him off. And you really do forget just how big Chris Hager is until he's next to Wardlow. MJF uses Floyd as the ref is distracted. Commentary teases a Floyd heel turn, pretty funny. And it looks pretty bad for Jericho here. MJF hits a stiff Judas effect for 3, but Chris's foot was on the ropes. One of the other refs that came out during the Wardlow Hager skirmish tells Aubrey Edwards to reverse the call. She does. The crowd is just so excited for this match to get restarted. And MJF, of course, just milking this. Match is restarted. Kris misses the Judas effect, and MJF has that arm bar that Chris Jericho tapped out to a couple weeks ago. Jericho able to roll through, gets the walls, locks it in. Crowd is hot at this point. MJF selling. He starts to bite his hand to alleviate the pain and gets to the bottom rope, but he doesn't quite reach it, and he taps. Jericho wins. Just great moment for Jericho. Overall, a great match from these two. I think it's my favorite match of theirs. Inner Circle do come out after the match to really celebrate with Jericho, kind of lip sing Fozzy, so it was pretty good. After that, we get the match 7 years in the making. CM Punk's return to wrestling. And before the match, we do get a Darby Allin video package with like a guy in a body bag that says best in the world. And then Darby jumps out of a helicopter. So that's as much sense as it made. And it was still cool. We get a fever pitch crowd for Punk's entrance. Darby comes out first, but nothing really noteworthy. It's Darby. He's over, but this is Punk's night. Get a big it's clobbering time. Punk is wearing he's wearing tights instead of his normal trunks. And I was kind of hoping for some Angel Garza tearaway pants, but it's all right. I know a lot of people are going to compare this to Shawn Michaels wearing those brown trunks at that Elimination Chamber. I think that was for SummerSlam. But I don't think, one, I defend that look still. But two, I think the tights look good. I think Punk needed a change a little bit, and it still has that Chicago theme to it. And shoot, if he's comfortable, he's comfortable. It looks like he was able to work in these, so it was great to see him. We get a stare off from these two at the beginning, and we get a lot of chain wrestling here to start. Commentary really hyping up that might be the best strategy for Punk is to use his veteran experience there. JR has a great call, the most welcome bell I've ever heard. Just he really added a lot to this match. There were some matches, he's JR, but these big moments is why you have a man like JR on commentary. They do kind of a similar spot of the 1-2-3 Kid and Bret Hart, where a little bit of chain wrestling, and Bret Hart shows that he's impressed by 1-2-3 Kid. Same thing. Punk looks impressed by Darby pretty early on. Chain wrestling start. We get a GTS tease very early on, and Darby is spooked and goes to the outside, trying to regain himself. We get a comeback from Darby, showing his speed advantage. And then Darby just gets slung right into the middle rope, like right between both the top and middle rope where those cables are. Just scary looking spot. Especially after we just saw Cash Wheeler get like deeply cut open by those same cords. So very scary spot. So he gets thrown through that, is on the outside, comes back in. Punk gives him a bow and arrow. Punk's moving smooth throughout this match too. I mean, man doesn't look like has any ring rust. It's just smooth and everything is with grace. It keeps looking at Darby. It's just good storytelling. I mean, these two are just feeding off each other. You get I really got a vibe of like Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero at Halloween Havoc, where like Eddie's really trying to keep sorry, where Punk is really trying to keep Darby looking face, even though this is a face-face scenario. So, Punk's using all these abdominal stretches and just great facials to really keep them both face, but Darby's still looking like the underdog. We get a stunner from Darby after a lot of abdominal stretches, and it looks to really have rocked Punk. We get a big palm strike and a coffin drop from Darby onto Punk. Another GTS tease, but Darby rolls through, and a big code red from Darby. This point, I mean, the crowd is just completely back and forth. We get a top rope back suplex countered into a pin by Darby, which was a nice looking spot. We get a lot of roll up reversals into a GTS, and Punk nails the GTS, but Darby falls out of the ring. They do the same spot as Jericho just did. Darby gets up at 9. Really close call there. We get the classic Punk running knee and short arm clothesline, that GTS taunt, and Darby is limp. Punk muscles him up for the GTS, but Darby elbows his way out of that and gets booed for it too, I might add. Get a bottom rope dive from Darby. Always so quick with that. And he climbs up to the top rope, hits a beautiful swanton bomb onto CM Punk on the outside, steals the GTS taunt, and goes for a coffin drop. But Punk just perfectly sits up, allowing Darby to fall straight on his back. Goes for a pin. Darby rolls him into a crucifix pin, but then CM Punk rolls through that, has him in the GTS. But Darby catches the knee on his way down, gets that patented roll-up he does. I always forget the name of it. We get a leg lariat from Punk, and then a flush GTS for a win, and it was a great match. Post-match, Sting comes out, shakes Punk's hand, and both Sting and CM Punk help Darby up. Well, they attempt to help Darby up, but Darby absolutely not allowing that. Has to get up on his own 2 feet, but then eventually does shake Punk's hand. And I mean, just a special moment, a special match. And if this is what we're going to see from Punk, then I'm very glad he's back in that ring, because this was a great match. Up next, we have the real main event. Paul Wight, formerly known as The Big Show, versus QT Marshall. I mean, this match, what can I say? It was short. At least they did that. They did that right. Paul kind of looks like he's limping when he comes out, so I was a little worried already. We get the big chops in the corner to QT. He like rips open his hoodie to do it. Great. I mean, it's just patented Big Show. And then we get a bunch of interference from the Nightmare Family. And Big Show pretty much shrugs all of them off pretty easily. I think he gives that punch he does, and just runs everyone off, does the big chop, grabs QT, gives him a chokeslam and the win. I mean, not much to say here. JR does call Paul Wight Big Show, and Shivani has to like subtly like tell him not to do that. And I saw that JR called Ruby Soho Ruby Riot, which, yeah, it makes sense. After this match, Mox and Minoru Suzuki is announced for Dynamite. That's going to be a great match. Mox has a promo. It was kind of a rambly one. Talks about all the drugs he's done. He calls Minoru Suzuki a bully. Says he's going to bury him in Nasty Natty Jungle, which is a Cincinnati reference, obviously. So, yeah, it wasn't his best performance, but when you have a match like that and you have a match with Suzuki coming up, I don't need you to say much because I'm going to be watching either way. Next, we also have Ruby Soho announced for Dynamite this Wednesday. Dustin Rhodes and Malachi Black are announced for Wednesday. They will be facing off. Then we get a Malachi Black promo, pretty typical of his character right now, but still really compelling. He tells Dustin to think about everyone that Malachi Black has already hurt in his family, and that come Wednesday, it's time to pay the Bone Man's toll, which I don't really understand. But I do like the concept of Malachi Black hyping up Dustin, really getting him fired up. I think it shows like a really great psychological story there. And then for Rampage, we have Pac versus Andrade announced, which I think they already had announced it earlier in the day. Again, it's going to be a great match. Kind of disappointed it wasn't on this card, but I want it to have the time it deserves. So next up, we have the actual main event. Kenny Omega defending his AEW World Heavyweight Championship against the Impact World Champion, Christian Cage. Pretty interesting. We only have Callis coming out with him as Kenny Omega comes out to the ring. He had some new gear, his course dyed hair. I mean, it just looks like he did himself, but I like it. We get a Waffle House shout out, and then it's a hot start. Omega wastes no time. Bell rings and immediately hits a sneaky V trigger into the corner, and he's laying in some fist and hits a Rana on to the outside. And Christian Cage able to come back, throws Omega into the barricade twice, which looked kind of rough. And then Cage does that patented dive from the top rope to the floor. Callis is distracting Christian Cage here a little bit, which I do like their story here of of like carny antics, hot dog handshake type deals going on in wrestling. I am into these two having beef like that. I think it's great. But Cage gets thrown into the stairs after the distraction. And then we get that table double stomp from Omega on the Cage, which again, pretty lenient refereeing, but I'll allow it because that spot looks great every time. Kenny Omega with the "Did I do that?" from Steve Urkel line after he hits that double stomp. Him and Don Callis set up another table, which I thought it was funny to see Don Callis setting up a table because he looked like just a janitor trying to do it. Referees being pretty lenient here again. These two bring it back in. Omega's in control. Omega's just so great, just natural, just moves so flush. I mean, it's just amazing to watch him work. They go back to the outside. Omega looks for that moonsault off the barricade, but botches the first attempt, and he really gets the crowd under control when they start to chant at him. And he hits the second attempt, but really close to not hitting it. Back in the ring, Christian's trying to fight back, but gets nailed into the turnbuckle like Bret Hart does, face first. We get a cross-legged patella drop, which just looks rough every time. That gets Kenny a 2. Kenny gets caught up top, and we get a top rope Hurricane Rana, the one that Chris Jericho was looking for earlier, from Christian to Omega. That only gets him a 2. We get a one-winged angel tease. Excuse me. Christian goes for that clover leaf. Christian escapes the "you can't escape" for a reverse DDT. Again, really fast match to call. Christian charges for a spear and eats a V trigger for his trouble, and that looked rough. And we get a big tornado DDT from Christian. He's teasing that kill switch, but he gets elbowed and windmill kicked to the back into the corner. And of course, he's sitting there in that corner. So we get another V trigger, then a snapdragon, and the crowd starts chanting one more time. And so Omega does it one more time, another snapdragon. And this he infuriates Christian here. Christian flips him off and then gets another snapdragon for his troubles and a nasty V trigger. And now Christian's on the apron. Evil Omega wants to hit a German suplex onto that table on the outside, but can't get it. A little bit back and forth here, and we get a spear from Christian to Omega through the table. That table broke kind of awkwardly. It's kind of one of those breaks where only one leg like snaps off and the middle doesn't really come in. So it looked pretty rough. And it looked like Cage got a little cut there on his rib from the leg of the table. Sends him back in the ring, though. We get 2 spears in the ring, and Omega kicks out of both of them. We get a frog splash attempt from Christian Cage, which I will say I really love his frog splash. But Omega gets the knees up, goes for a gut wrench, probably a power bomb, but Omega just can't follow through. He's too exhausted. We get some nasty knees, a Christian comeback, but he gets a ripcord knee for his efforts. Cage blocks the Tiger Driver, gets the clover leaf. which the crowd didn't really sell as much as I think he wanted them to. But the Cloverleaf is just not that exciting of a move. And at this point, Callis calls for Gallows and Anderson. Cage has to fight them both off. Kenny accidentally nails Gallows with a V trigger that was meant for Christian Cage. Cage hits the kill switch. Callis is in the ring, gets runned off by Christian, and now he's looking for that avalanche kill switch on Omega. Omega reverses it into a super one wing angel for the 1-2-3. It was a good match. It really was a good match, but it shouldn't have main evented. In my opinion, it should have probably been Punk and Darby. I know a lot of people like the main title of the main event, but I'm a fan of stories main eventing, and this one just didn't have the heat that it should have to main evented. But that being said, we now know why it main evented, because of the post-match shenanigans. After the match, the Bucks come out and they look pretty crushed coming down that ramp. I mean, they looked defeated. And they're limping. I mean, this is just a great moment though. Coming down the ramp, the Elite come and beat down Christian some more while Christian's just laying there lifeless on the mat. Jungle Express try to make the save, but its number advantage is too much for them. And so Kenny starts cutting a promo. He calls out Punk, says no one's on his level, and then the lights go out, and Adam Cole, baby, is here in the building. Looks to confront Omega and the Elite. I think he even utters, "You know what you did to me." Jungle Boy barely reaching up, getting to his feet, and swerve. He gets a super kick from Adam Cole. And Adam Cole has a story time for us. He cuts a promo now, declaring his allegiance with the Elite, saying the Elite are the most dominant faction in pro wrestling history. And then, when we thought the surprises were over, Brian Danielson, is in AEW. I'm a little disappointed that it's not Eye of the Tiger or the Final Countdown. It's kind of like his WWE theme, but either way, the crowd erupts. Yes chants throughout the building. Brian, in a plain white t-shirt and a man bun, comes down to the ring, helps up Jungle Express and Christian Cage. They fight off the Elite. Brian with some yes kicks in the corner to Nick Jackson and a German suplex, and of course, a running knee from Brian to Nick Jackson. And it's the perfect way to end this pay-per-view. Well, that was the match-by-match rundown of AEW's All Out. So now I want to highlight the match of the night, spot of the night, and the MVP of this show. But first, overall, this is for sure a show of the year contender in my books. It could possibly be the most impactful show that AEW has ever done. It's definitely the most watched, it's the most bought, but in terms of an impact in the wrestling landscape, it definitely sets a new tone going forward. I had to be the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks. Truly, I know people are going to say it's a spot fest, but that's a spot fest with a story laced in it and the right person won. I really didn't think the Lucha Bros were going to win this match, so it's even better that I was surprised by the finish. And just an all-around great moment for those two guys. Like I said before, they earned every bit of that. My spot of the night might be a little bit under the radar, but it was actually Darby going through that middle rope, top rope situation when Punk flew him into it. I mean, I couldn't get over it. I was like, oh my God, that's one of the worst things I've seen. But I mean, he's fine. That looked rough. And my MVP of the show, originally, it was CM Punk. Of course, his first match back after 7 years. But now, after that main event and after the post-main event, it's hard not to do a three-way tie between CM Punk, Adam Cole, and Bryan Danielson, because this is truly the beginning of a new era of AEW and a new era of pro wrestling that I am so excited to keep covering for you guys. And with that, that is my review, recap, and discussion of AEW's All Out pay-per-view. I can't wait to hear y'all's thoughts. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate, whatever you need to do to make sure that we keep building this community. And please, in the comments, let me know what was your match of the night, what was your spot of the night, and who was your MVP of All Out. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.